Good afternoon, bonjour, and buenos dias. I'm Aladia Sedawi, the Chief of Energy at the Regional Commission of Western Asia. I have the honor to moderate this side event. This side event hosted by our sister organization, the UN DESA, at the SDG Pavilion. And it intends to look at how together we can work in enhancing synergies and addressing the trade-offs between the water and energy sectors. The event is also under the umbrella of the Sustainable Water and Energy Solutions Network, for those who are not familiar with this global network, established by DESA in order to support how we can share best practices cross-region, but also at the national level and globally, at the technical level, but also at policy level. And I had the opportunity also to share from my region, but also to see how we can learn from best practices, specifically when it comes to the sustainable transition, but also how to renewable energy efficiency linked to the access to water can be all in a way interlinked at the technical level, but at the policy level, as indicated in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The side event is within the COP28 hosted in Dubai, our host, United Arab Emirates. Thanks for hosting us. It intends to look at how we can advance the climate agenda, both adaptation and mitigation, and obviously this means how we enhance synergies and address the trade-offs between the two sectors. We have 1 hour and a very interesting panel. If you allow me first to present my panel before giving the floor one by one, because they do have presentations but also interventions from their perspective. I will start by Mr. Gonzalo Sáenz de Miera, and sorry for my pronunciation, Director of Climate Change and Alliances Iberdrola in Spain. We have also Mr. Alfredo, as you said, Vela. So Alfredo Vela, he's the president Azazuca. Sesqua. My Spanish is not as well. Guatemala, this was my Spanish. Guatemala, and happy to have you with us today. And Ms. Camila Granco, she's the Economic Officer at our sister organization, Latin America, ECLAC. Nice having you with us. And Ms. Jessica Obeid, she is the co-founder, New Energy Concert from Lebanon, from the Arab region, ESCWA region. And happy we're having you with us. Mr. Luis Miguel Paez, he's the Executive President, UNELA. And Mr. Fernando Alandes, he's the Deputy Manager Director of Canal de Isabel II, Comunidades in Madrid, Spain. Nice having you all with us, and I think we would start by Mr. Gonzalo. Please, if you have, I think, from your place. And I just want to say, if I may, since we would have an interactive panel for 1 hour, if you just look at from your perspective and the business model that you will present from your country or organization perspective, how we can look at the address the challenges, but in a way also to bring them as opportunities to address enhance the synergies between the two sectors. Over to you.
Okay, so thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. Congratulations to you and DESA for organizing such an interesting event, and thank you very much for inviting us. I have 6 minutes, so I would like to share with you 6 messages. First message, we are a global energy company. So we invest a lot in renewables, and we use water. This is Iberdrola. So first message, we are facing several crises at the same time. Climate crisis, energy crisis, water crisis, biodiversity crisis. All these crises have a same origin, an energy model based on fossil fuels, and a same solution, moving from fossil fuels to renewables. First message. Second message, we are seeing a technological revolution of green solutions. So renewables today are the most competitive way to produce electricity all around the world. Batteries and heat pumps will be competitive with fossil fuels in just 2 or 3 years, we think. And green hydrogen needed to decarbonize, hard-to-abate sectors will be competitive in 7-8 years. And this is a big change. Third message, this transition from fossil fuels to renewables is going to be good for people, and it's going to be good for the planet, and it's going to be good for water resources. Why? First thing, it's going to be good for climate change, because climate change, the origin of climate change is fossil fuels. 80% of the CO2 emissions come from burning fossil fuels. So this is an advantage. If we move to renewables, it's good for water consumption, because renewable energies consume much less water than fossil fuels. It will also be good for energy security, because we don't have to rely on imported energy with the problems they may rise as we are seeing now. And it may be good for economic and prosperity, because this is cheaper energy and will imply a lot on investment in a lot of countries. Fourth message, moreover, water plays a very important role in the power sector, in the electricity sector. Why? Because we have hydropower. Hydropower represents something around 30% of the renewable energy in the world, and will play a fundamental role in the future. No with new dams, because new dams have a lot of environmental impact. However, pump storage, connected existing dams are going to be a very valuable resource for an energy system based on renewables. The problems with renewables is their variability. And if you have hydro and pump storage, from Canal de Isabel II, it's very flexible energy that can be a complement to renewables. Fifth message, in Iberdrola, we are really committed to this agenda. We are committed to climate change. We want to reduce zero emissions in 2030. So we want to generate all our energy from renewable sources. We are only investing in renewables and networks. And we are only investing in renewables and networks because it's good for the planet, but it's good for people because it's cheaper energy. We are committed because we have an objective of zero impact on biodiversity for 2030. That is one of the other. And we are committed because we have an objective for water use to reduce 50% of our water use in 2030. So, as a final message, the integration of water and energy solutions are key to ensure a sustainable development, a real sustainable development. We are making progress, but not at the necessary speed. And to move forward, we need two things. Policies, you were mentioning policies, are key to move things in this way. And the second thing is alliances, working together. Firms, we can play an important role. Governments can play an important role, environmental NGOs, but we have to work together to move into this direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your commitment, and thank you very much also for the recommendation that you provided. Maybe we can follow up next with Mr. Alfredo Vela. I think you have a presentation on from Guatemala perspective. If the technicians can put on the screen, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alfredo Vila from the Sugar Association of Guatemala. We are 10 sugar mills in the country. We found the Guatemalan Sugar Association in 1957. If you want to have an idea how old is the organization, that was the year I was born. Some time before, we thought that we need to do bigger things and more to have more impact. So we create our social arm, Fundazúcar. We have in Fundazúcar education programs, health programs, and community development programs. Then in 1992, we created Senjicaña. That's our cane investigation center. We have created many varieties of cane, and now our fields have 70% of Guatemalan sugar cane. That's very important for our economic sustainability. In 1994, we found Expogranel. We export 60% of our sugar. We produce 2,700 metric, 2,700,000 metric tons of sugar. And in this terminal, we can move more than 2,000 tons per hour. That's one of the most efficient centrals in the world. In 2010, we create the private Climate Change Institute. I think that's still been the only private climate change institute in the world. That's a very, very good improvement of our organization. And in 2022, our newest organization is the Innovation Hub. We are studying many new projects in agriculture 4.0. Our sustainable development is based in three axes: environment, social, and governance. ASASWA is committed to promoting the implementation and achievement of the goals and targets of the 2030 Agenda while advancing climate change mitigation and adaptation through integrated, innovative, sustainable water and energy solutions. We have advances in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Agenda. Integrated watershed management, including forests in the high areas, riparian forests, biological corridors, and reforestation. We have planted since 2011 more than 8.8 million trees. That's around 7,000 hectares have been reforested, to which 860 will be added this year. Technologies and practices to optimize the use of water, both in the cultivation of sugarcane and in the production of sugar. We have the reuse of the water. Our goal is not to use any fresh water. We are going to use in the near future just the water of the cane. We have the dry cleaning sugarcane. Sometime before we cleaned the cane with water. Now we have a dry clean. We have a very efficient new irrigation systems. Senjicaña scientists developed the Senjiriegos. That's a very new and good irrigation system. More than 76% of water of the cane needs to grow is obtained from rain. Guatemalan sugar uses 47 less water than other sugar producing countries per ton of cane. The role of the sugar agroindustry as a provider of renewable, and sustainable electricity to Guatemala. 91% of the electricity used by the sugar agroindustry is from the bagasse of the cane. More than almost 30% of the electricity of the country is produced by the sugar mills with bagasse of cane. That's 1,784 gigawatts. The generation of renewable energy from biomass has prevented 4 million tons of CO2 from reaching the environment due to the reduction of fossil fuels to generate energy. 2022 guidelines were issued for the conservation of biodiversity in areas of interest for sugarcane. Our carbon footprint, we produce 0.36 kilograms of CO2 per kilogram of sugar and 19.6 cubic meters per ton of sugar cane. What you see there is a fragment of a paper that shows the contributions of Guatemala's sugarcane agro-industry to the sustainable development goals on water and energy. And we are very honored that I think this is the only paper published by the United Nations Journal of the Sugarcane Agro-Industry. We understand very well our role as generators of opportunities and prosperity for millions of people in Guatemala. That's why we think we are more than sugar, we are energy for sustainable development.
Thanks for making the energy sweet with the sugarcane and make it sustainable. And certainly it's need a lot of efforts, specifically looking at from the synergies in trade-off with biodiversity in a country like Guatemala. And maybe it's good to see the regional perspective from Latin America. And I call you upon Ms. Camila to share with us the perspective from the Regional Commission, since you have the portfolio of the region. Over to you, Camila.
Good afternoon. Is this working? It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I would like to thank DESA, UNESCO for the invitation. I am here representing the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. A pleasure to greet also my fellow panelists today. So I would like to present to you the results of a paper that was published on the synergies between energy and water in Latin America and the Caribbean. It will be a very succinct presentation, and I invite you all to read the paper that was co-authored by the head of our Water and Energy Unit, Dr. Silvia Saraiva. So, let me see if I can use this. Oh, it's quite small. Latin America and the Caribbean is a region that contributes relatively little to global emissions. The region emits around 10% of the global greenhouse gases. However, there is an asymmetry because the region is severely vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, mainly climate change disasters. In proportion, compared to the world, it's a region that produces relatively clean energy. Around 60% of the electricity generation in Latin America and the Caribbean is from renewable sources. In the world, 60% in the world is from renewable sources, and 73% in Latin America and the Caribbean are from renewable sources. The region, you can see in the left-hand side the proportion of renewables in the electricity matrix. As you can see, most countries in the region are very reliant on hydropower, which is the blue bar on the graph. On the right-hand side, you can see, on the other hand, the impacts that climate change will have on precipitation, on rain. And there you can see that one of the most important impacts of climate change in Latin America and the Caribbean are droughts. So this is a first direct link between energy security and water and climate change in the region. The interconnections, the degree of integration of the electric grids in Latin America and the Caribbean is an area of promising advancements and progress, especially in the field of transboundary water. You can see in the right-hand side the proportion of transboundary basins with interoperational agreements for water cooperation. In South America, interconnections are mainly based on hydroelectric power plants. The operating bilateral electric interconnection agreements are for Itaipu, which is a hydroelectric power plant, until recently one of the largest in the planet, between Paraguay and Brazil. Also, Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay share a treaty, an arrangement on emergency exchanges during droughts, which have become more intense and more frequent in the recent years. I'm going to move a bit faster due to the time constraints. And this is the case study that is addressed in the paper and that I would like to talk a bit more to you about. The paper covers the circular economy that can exist between SDG 6 for water and SDG 7 for energy. In particular, the paper taps into or looks into the potential for methane recovery from wastewater to produce power. According to the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, methane emitted worldwide needs to be reduced by a third by 2030, which is right around the corner, so that we can still keep on track for the 1.5% target. In Latin America and the Caribbean, methane emissions from wastewater account for 10% of the total methane emitted. Since 1990, methane emissions in Latin America have grown by 40% and are expected to grow without mitigation actions by another 19% by 2030. So the potential for wastewater treatment and the use of the sludge to capture the methane and then use this methane to produce renewable energy is the object of the paper. So the circular economy and the relation between water treatment or wastewater treatment and renewable energy. The paper found that there is an opportunity to incorporate mid-cities. There is relatively widespread of this technology in large cities, in Mexico and Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, and others. But the large potential for growth or for the dissemination of these technologies lies in mid-size cities. It is estimated that this technology or mainstreaming these technologies in these 25 mid-size towns that were considered in the paper would require an investment around $250 million to adopt these circular economy principles. And it would generate a cost saving in the production of energy of $46.6 million US dollars. I'm going to move to our next slide that looks also into the tripod, into the three pillars of sustainable development, the economic, social, and environmental dimensions. ECLAC has been proposing the idea of a big push for sustainability. It's essentially an idea centered on mapping, identifying the strategic areas that could promote simultaneously benefits on the economic, social, and environmental dimensions. And so water and energy are one of these strategic areas that we have mapped. In terms of water, we estimate that with an increase of 1.3% of the annual GDP in terms of investments over the course of 10 years, we would be able to universalize the access to water and sanitation. These investments would produce very important benefits, including safe access to water, better health, reduced pollution, among others. In terms of the energy transition, we estimate that, let me go to the next slide. Oh, it's not on there. But we estimate a similar value of 1.3% of annual GDP that would be necessary over the next 10 years to increase renewable energy generation capacity to 80%, reducing CO2 emissions by 32% and creating 7 million green jobs. So these are the points that I wanted to bring, and I invite you all to follow our study and research for more information. Thank you.
Thanks for drawing the attention to how we can apply the principle of circular economy to help to address the synergies and the trade-off between the two sectors. And certainly, when we speak about the energy transition, it needs to be inclusive enough and just. And it needs to also look at to the dimension how energy can enable other sectors. But obviously, the examples of methane emissions and the recycling and what you did present, it's very good examples. I think it's good also to disseminate the paper and the research paper. What we do also in the Arab region, since we have also similar setting in terms of vulnerability from climate change and water scarcity. And it's good also the aspect of transboundary water management and across different countries in the region. And that's why it's good to also move to our next speaker from the Esqua region, Ms. Jessica Ubaid from Lebanon. From your perspective, the way you see the water energy nexus and specifically the specific case of Lebanon and the region. Over to you, Jessica.
Thank you, Raja. So I have 5 points on this, on the water scarcity in Arab states and the region, and the food-water energy nexus, because water and energy nexus directly imply food security, wastewater, virtual water in the region, and hydropower. So first, we're a region that is highly vulnerable to water scarcity. So when we look into forecasts, the Arab states are expected to host 12 out of the 33 most water scarce countries in the world by 2030. That's a lot. So we need to do something about it, and we need to do something fast. And then we have the food-water energy nexus, because when we look into agricultural practices in most Arab states, they traditionally have relied on flooding, which consumes a lot of water, and just like flooding the fields of agriculture. And that's a major issue, especially for crops and the type of agriculture that we do have in the region. For example, in Egypt, we cultivate rice, which is uses a lot of water. So we need to change these practices and rely on more water-efficient practices, but this also imply having more energy-efficient practices. Why? Because when we look into how these water pumps are running as well, most of them are running on diesel generators, because agricultural areas happen to be so often in places that are far away from the grid. But it's not only diesel generators that are highly pollutant, but also highly expensive as well. But so often we've also seen that they rely on diesel trucks. So they have a truck and they have this pulley where it just rotate. By rotation, they just pump water. So it's high emissions, diesel trucks, diesel generators. When we look into the electrification rates in most Arab states, even in the states that we do have high electrification rates, it's not necessarily that it's high electrification. It's just that we can have grids, full grids, reaching all the country, but it could happen, for example, like in the case of Lebanon and Iraq, that this grid has a lot of power shortages in power supply, so this grid doesn't have electricity.